covering more local stories than any other station. Local 4 at 6 p.m. starts now.
A downtown Hastings building is now being demolished following a partial collapse. Plus, another Nebraska town is urging its residents to boil water before using. We'll tell you why this is becoming a trend. But first, an accused murderer is looking to plead insanity following the killing of a Missouri man at a Nebraska rest stop. Welcome in for Local 4 News at 6. I'm Brandon Muting. Before we get to those stories, we have some breaking news out of Overton. Several agencies are investigating a property there stemming from a case of a missing Lincoln woman, 31-year-old Jerica Homry, who was reported missing of July this year. Evidence previously suggested she had been in the vicinity of Arapahoe, Holdridge, Overton, and Lexington, and the investigation is ongoing. More than 4 months after the death of Gary Weaver at an I-80 rest stop, the man accused of his murder was in court this morning for his arraignment. Local 4's Casey Mintz was there and shares updates from the Hall County courtroom.
James Thompson Jr. was back in Hall County Court this morning for an arraignment hearing. During that, he pled not guilty by reason of insanity to 11 charges linked to the murder of a Missouri man at a Grand Island rest stop on I-80. Those charges are for murder, attempted murder, assault, operating a motor vehicle to avoid arrest, 2 counts of attempted robbery, and 5 counts of use of a deadly weapon to commit a felony. Now, previously, Hall County Judge Art Wetzel ruled Thompson competent after a evaluation at the Lincoln Regional Center this summer. Wetzel then transferred the case to Hall County District Court, and that brings us to Thompson's plea this morning. Nebraska law allows a suspect to claim insanity at the time the crime was committed. The defendant is required to prove insanity. Under the common law definition, the defendant must prove that he had a mental disease or defect when the crime was committed and that he did not understand the consequences of his crime. Now, the next step for this case is a status hearing on December 17th here at the Hall County Courthouse. Reporting in Grand Island, I'm Casey Mintz for Local 4 News.
Thank you, Casey. A Grand Island man is going on trial in March for a shooting this past summer. 41-year-old Gerber Perez Vasquez faces weapon and assault charges. Police arrested him in August after a man was shot during a fight near Grand Island Senior High. Police say Perez Vasquez hit the man with a pistol. The gun then went off and the man was hit in the shoulder. Perez Vasquez has pleaded not guilty to the charges and a trial is scheduled for March 3rd. The Exeter-Milligan community is mourning the loss of one of their students after a crash Friday morning. 14-year-old Max Real Cisneros died after his vehicle collided with a pickup truck while he was on his way to school. Grief counselors are at the school this week to help students and staff to help with coping during this tragedy. Superintendent Paul Sheffield said Max always had a smile on his face. He said this is a difficult time for all, but knows their staff and community and students will come together to work through the tragedy. The Knox County Sheriff's Office is asking the community's help trying to find a missing 12-year-old boy. According to the Sheriff's Office, Holden Duncan was last seen getting off the school bus by Crofton High School on Monday around 4:15 p.m. Duncan is 4'3", has sandy brown hair, and was last seen wearing a black long-sleeve Under Armour shirt, black sweatpants, and black Nike shoes. If you see or happen to know where he is, the Sheriff's Office is asking you to call them at 402-288-4261. Checking in on the weather now, David Stoltz joins us. And David, a pretty clear day, so I'm going to call it not too shabby.
Yeah, it wasn't too shabby out there, but unseasonably warm for the middle of October, as we saw highs ranging from the low 80s in the southeastern part of the state to much cooler 60s off to the northwest, and that's due to a cold front that's currently making its way through the state. Kind of cold front, behind the cold front, winds out of the north-northwest, anywhere from 10 to 15 miles per hour. Still seeing some gusts in the Tri-Cities area, specifically Grand Island, at 26 mile per hour gusts, and seeing those gusts mainly in north-central parts of the state. And as we head into the overnight, though, those winds will be backing off. The winds will be backing off, but the clouds will be on the increase associated with that cold front. We'll see increasing clouds overnight and could see a few sprinkles, especially north of the Tri-Cities early tomorrow morning. As far as those lows overnight, looking at 30s northwest to the upper 40s, low 50s off to the southeast. Finally, some measurable rain yesterday. We'll take a look at those rain totals across the area, plus some flip-flopping temperatures as we head through the rest of the week. Brandon?
Thank you, David. The village of Bertrand is asking for residents to boil drinking water after a loss of well controls this morning. The loss of controls led to a loss of water pressure, In addition to boiling water, Bertrand is also asking residents to not water their lawn while they fix this issue. Village officials say to check their Facebook page for updates. And over in Fullerton, residents are still under a boil water warning tonight after E. coli was detected in the system. Local 4 spoke with a city official this afternoon, and they are still on track to lift the warning on Friday. Before that, they must pass 2 consecutive days of sample testing with no bacterium. They also say the last round of cases of water will be given out tomorrow afternoon from 4 to 7. The Department of Health and Human Services is reporting an outbreak of E. coli in Nebraska that is linked to a McDonald's menu item. Lancaster, Douglas, Sarpy, Lincoln, and Cass counties have potentially linked the outbreak to quarter pounders. So far, 9 Nebraskans are sick due to this outbreak, and the CDC is not advising against eating McDonald's as the potentially contaminated items have been removed from the menu. If you have symptoms like diarrhea or vomiting and a fever of 102 Fahrenheit after eating McDonald's, contact your primary care provider. Destruction has begun for the neighboring building of Burt's Pharmacy in downtown Hastings. Companies partnered to knock down the building, which was a part of a fire that took place in March of 2022 and later partially collapsed in September of 2024. Crew members started demolition inside the building by destructing connecting points of South Central Taekwondo's building. John Miller, project manager of the demolition, says keeping the area safe is the top priority.
The safety is the number one concern, so we barricade off all areas. So we currently have a fencing barrier and then a perimeter barricade for any passerbys. They can be redirected around the site.
Miller says the demolition may take a few days for complete destruction, but this is a specialty for them to do things safely and quickly. Starting on November 1st, SkyWest Airlines will begin offering commercial air service under the United Express brand at the Kearney Regional Airport. The Kearney City Council has approved the use in operations agreement. The leasing agreement will include all the typical lease requirements, including insurance coverage. SkyWest will pay nearly $3,000 per month for rent, as well as pay for different fees as a part of the agreement. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, with 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men experiencing some form of domestic violence. Today marked the final session of a 2-day-long training to teach advocates and emergency agencies to improve the collaboration and effectiveness of the collective efforts of all the different entities involved.
Every organization is really speaking from their lens of expertise, and that's helpful for all of us to have a better understanding of the touch points that victims and survivors are navigating on their way to safety.
It's the first year all of these organizations were together under one space, and if you're a survivor or know someone who may be experiencing domestic violence, you can reach out to Voices of Hope at 402-475-7273. All conversations are kept confidential. In recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, Adams County YWCA held an event for women who are affected. Local 4's Jartavius Edmond joins us in studio to tell us more. Jartavius.
Brandon, oftentimes domestic violence is viewed as something that's physical abuse, but it can occur in other ways too. So the Adams County YWCA partnered with the Encourage Advocacy Center to educate how financial abuse is a part of domestic violence. The workshop focuses on 3 different services: crisis response hotline, healing and thriving group sessions, prevention and intervention programs for those affected by financial abuse. Joe Bear, Executive Director of the Encourage Advocacy Center, says economic abuse is really something that's common as a part of domestic violence. So it's important to educate and provide resources for those in need.
If you don't have any money, how are you supposed to leave? So we partnered with the YWCA to provide this workshop to further educate our community about what economic abuse is, what to look for, and how to help someone who might be experiencing it.
It's a bit like a bridge. She added 95% of people
who experience domestic violence are also experiencing some form of economic abuse. Bear says the Encourage Advocacy Center needs more volunteers to be a part of the organization. She also says if anyone has experienced financial abuse or knows someone who has, please reach out to their 24 hours crisis hotline. Brandon, back to you at the desk.
Thank you, Jartavius. After the month of September, Nebraska has the 5th lowest unemployment rate in the nation. The state's average is currently sitting at 2.7%, which is below the national average of 4.1%. The rate has stayed the same exactly from August, with more than 1 million Nebraskans employed and more than 28,000 without a job. When it comes to the Tri-Cities, Buffalo County has the lowest rate with 2.2%, Adams County is at 2.6%, and Hall County with the highest rate of 4.1%. Big Idea Grand Island will be held November 4th at the Liederkranz, and the top 10 finalists have been announced, which were picked by the judging panel. You can see those finalists right there on your screen, and the audience will play a big role in picking the winners, as the top 3 pitches will advance and the top prize will get $10,000. A big step in building the West Connector Trail is about to take place tonight if the Grand Island City Council approves. At the meeting, the council will vote to approve engineering firm that will be designing the trail. The trail will go from the intersection of North Road and Old Potash Highway to the City Water Tower Park on Engelman Road. The trail will be about 1.4 miles long, and Parks and Recreation Director Todd McCoy says once the trail is complete, it'll fill a need for pedestrians and bike riders to get around the city safely.
It's desired. I think a lot of people who use the trail system would really appreciate that. It's nice to keep going in one direction and not having to stop and turn back. And the more connectivity, which is a loop trail will give you, makes it just that much more convenient and easy to use.
McCoy also says the city hopes to connect all of the trails in a loop around the city, and that meeting will start tonight at 7. Still ahead, David Stoltz will see if more rain showers could be headed our way in his full forecast. But first, the race to the White House may come down to undecided voters. Our political experts break down how the candidates are hoping to sway those votes. Stick with us. Vice President Kamala Harris is receiving some unconventional support in a race for the White House. Republican former Wyoming Representative Liv Cheney is campaigning with Harris today in several key battleground states. Our Washington correspondent Julia Benbrook gives us a look at the latest developments in the race.
An unlikely duo on the campaign trail. Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee for president, and former Representative Liz Cheney, who not that long ago was one of the top Republicans in the House of Representatives. The pair traveling to suburban counties in key swing states Monday. Cheney, a staunch conservative, voted to impeach Donald Trump, was primaried and ousted. She's a part of a growing group of Republicans who have said they believe the former president is a threat to democracy.
You have to choose in this race between someone who has been faithful to the Constitution, who will be faithful, and Donald Trump.
The Harris campaign views these appearances as a way to reach undecided and persuadable voters. Just last week, Harris rallied alongside more than 100 Republicans who have backed her candidacy.
No matter your party, no matter who you voted for last time, there is a place for you in this campaign.
Part of the group she's trying to reach, those who supported former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley in the Republican primary. Despite her blistering criticism of Trump, Haley endorsed him after dropping out of the race and spoke in support of his candidacy at the Republican National Convention.
She's supported me, and we had a great primary. It was an unbelievable primary. It was the fastest anyone's ever gone.
When we come back, David Stoltz will be back to see if the temperatures will be dipping sometime this week in his full forecast. And later, the holidays are quickly approaching, which means you'll probably start seeing new deals on credit cards. On tonight's Watching Your Wallet, what to consider before signing up.
Remember, it takes 2 votes to end the government ban. Your Grand Island, Hastings, and Kearney local forecast with meteorologist David Stoltz.
Welcome back. Well, we finally saw some appreciable rain yesterday across portions of the area. With any system, there's going to be losers and winners. And the winners seem to be in south central part of the state and portions of eastern Nebraska. Saw just over a half an inch in the Hastings area. Grand Island, just under 0.4 of an inch. And out in Lexington, also just under a half an inch. In Lincoln, under a half an inch and just over a half of an inch there in the York area. Unfortunately, didn't see in northern parts of the viewing area or out west, just a 0.06 of an inch there in Imperial. Nonetheless, some much needed rain for some of us as we filled the bucket in Hastings at just over a half an inch now for the month of October. Still running almost an inch behind in Grand Island, 0.4 4 to 3 inches of rain. Still, once again, just over an inch behind. And interesting fact, we talked about Hastings at 5 o'clock. We're going to talk about Grand Island. We saw the same amount of rain yesterday that we saw between September 1st and October 20th of this year. Yesterday we saw 0.39 inches, and between September 1st and October 20th, 0.4 inches. So almost exact identical. It wasn't the driest period like we saw in Hastings, but it was the driest on record for that period was 1939 with just over 0.2 of an inch of rain. But hey, we'll take any rain we can get as it continues to be dry out there. Much different scene this evening than yesterday as we had those clouds and rain moving in. Temperatures this evening in the low to mid 70s. There's lots of sun out there. Actually, the sun is setting now. Winds out of the north-northwest behind a cold front, right around 10 to 15 miles per hour. Current temperatures across the state look like this. Upper 70s southeast to those cooler 60s behind the front, seeing 62 degrees currently in Ainsworth. Those winds behind the front, yes, out of the north-northwest, anywhere from 10 to 15 miles per hour. Seeing the stronger winds mainly over north central and northeastern portions of the state. That's where we find gusts to 26 mile per hour in the Grand Island area and 36 mile per hour gusts up there in Norfolk. So winds will be backing off though overnight tonight, as we'll have an area of high pressure. Let me get that right. Area of high pressure move on in. There are those clouds associated with that cold front, so increasing clouds overnight tonight. Could see a few sprinkles or some light rain in north central part of the state overnight. Other than that, looking at that cold front continuing to sink south. Behind it, area of high pressure fills in. We'll have a chilly night tonight, especially in northwestern parts of the viewing area. And then for tomorrow, those clouds clear out. High pressure sticks around. A more seasonal day tomorrow. We'll see highs in the 60s. High pressure scoots off to the east. As it does, we'll see a return flow from the south, warming things up rather quickly for Thursday. Looking at a warm and breezy day on Thursday. And right on the heels of that warm front comes a cold front, which brings those closer to seasonal temperatures back to the area at the end of the week. Looking at temperatures overnight tonight, falling into the upper 30s northwest to the upper 40s off to the southeast. Clouds clear out. Looking at sunny day tomorrow with lighter winds. There's highs in the 60s. And tomorrow night, temperatures cooling back off into the 40s. Here comes that warm front. That's going to kick temperatures into the 70s for most southeastern half of the state on Thursday, and those cooler 60s for highs off to the northwest. For this evening, looking at mostly clear skies at 10 o'clock, temperature right around 57 degrees. Those winds out of the north at 5 to 10. And for tomorrow morning, looking at partly cloudy skies. Sprinkles are possible, especially north of the interstate. We'll start off with temperature around 47 degrees tomorrow. And then for the afternoon, temperatures in the low to mid 60s with sunny skies. And yes, closer to those seasonal temperatures we would see in the middle of October. As we look at the next 3 days, looking at mostly to partly sunny skies, we'll see a breezy day on Thursday as temperatures warm back up into the 70s. That cold front moves through Thursday late, bringing those temperatures back into the mid 60s to end out the week. And then we warm up again early next week into the 70s, but there's some signs. Could see some much cooler temperatures move in the middle of next week. Don't go anywhere. More Local 4 news after the break. Stick around.
Washington changed definition.
He got 10 times richer while in office.
Welcome back. Historically, the holiday season is when the credit card industry tends to offer the best deals on credit cards. But as consumer investigator Rachel DePompa found out from a debt relief attorney in this Watching Your Wallet, you need to be cautious before you agree to sign up at the register or online.
If you're looking to apply for a new line of credit, remember that bank will check your credit score. And Leslie Tane, a debt relief attorney, says when it does, that's considered a hard hit, and it could reduce your credit score by 20 or 30 points.
If you're on the border of good credit, it may not be a good time to have several banks checking your credit score. In addition, interest rates are super high. So unless you have stellar credit, you might find that your interest rates on anything new could be actually higher than what you're paying.
Tane says that includes introductory rates. She says you might find that even though the introductory rate on that new credit card is 0%, ultimately when the new rate kicks in, it's higher than the current rate of loans or credit cards that you already have.
If you have stellar credit, I would recommend contacting your current credit card banks and see if they have existing offers on your existing cards to either reduce the interest since you've been paying on time and you're considered a good customer, or if they have other financial products that you could go into that have limited impact on your credit and your other debts.
You can get a copy of your credit report for free at any time from annualcreditreport.com. And oftentimes your existing credit cards are also showing you your credit score each month on the app. With this Investigate TV Watch in Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa, Local 4 News.
David Stoltz will have a final check of your forecast right after the break.
There are 2 abortion initiatives on the ballot.
On 9.
Increasing clouds overnight tonight, a sprinkle possible tomorrow morning. We'll see lows in the upper 40s here in the Tri-Cities. As far as those lows tonight across the area, ranging from the mid-30s off to the northwest to upper 40s southeast. And more seasonal day tomorrow, as we'll see highs in the 60s. Tomorrow night, looking at temperatures falling back into the 40s. And a cooler day as we hit, our warmer day, I should say, on Thursday, as we'll see highs in the low 80s southeast to cooler 60s off to the northwest. As those 7-day forecast, flip-flopping temperatures between the 60s and 70s. Looking at the weekend, not too bad. Temperatures in the mid-60s Saturday. Looking at those low 70s on Sunday. Things becoming breezy early next week, as we could see our next big cool down come in the middle of next week. Well, thank you for watching Local 4. We're back again at 10. Until then, have a good evening.